Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and today I'm excited to welcome someone who I've become very friendly with. He's a scientist, inventor, and musician. He's the founder of Our Books, which is a free platform for creating and sharing flip books of any genre in any language. He's the host of the Children's Literature Channel on the New Books Network. He's also an author with his new picture book, Emily Saw a Door, out now from Penguin Random House. And please help me welcome Mel Rosenberg. Mel, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, Jonathan, great pleasure. Thanks so much to you. And you've been a wonderful guest on my blog.
Yes, I was going to mention that too. I'm definitely going to get to that. So I want to start by going back with you. So I've read a lot of things. So where did you grow up, and what was your family life like, in particular with regard to Judaism?
Okay, I was born in Winnipeg, which was a very, very Jewish center in Canada, center of Yiddishkeit, of culture. My great uncle, Noah Whitman, had a Yiddish newspaper and a Yiddish radio channel.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And my late mom used to recite Yiddish theater. My parents were born in Winnipeg, but my mom in particular spoke perfect Yiddish. And they grew up, they were born in Winnipeg. I was born there, but when I was about 2, we moved to Ottawa, which had a sparser Jewish population. Very Jewish family. When I turned 6, it was time to go to Kitale.
You were observant as a family when you were growing up then?
We weren't religious, but we were traditional. You know, we went to shul. We didn't keep Shabbos, but we kept kosher, and a very, very Hamish, a very Jewish family in the sense of core traditions and values and what it means to sein a Yid, they say in Yiddish, to be a Jew. My late grandfather on my father's side, on my mom's side, he used to say that to be Jewish is first of all to sein a Mensch.
Yes.
To be a good human being. And this was my family. In grade 1, there was a dilemma whether to send me to Yiddish school, the Sunday school twice a week, or to the Hebrew day school, which was a religious school. So I went for 8 years to a pretty religious school.
So the area you were in was very Jewish as well, in both places?
In Winnipeg, yes. In Ottawa, no.
Okay.
Ottawa, there was in our neighborhood, very few Jewish people.
So I'm just curious now, this is off topic. Not a little bit off topic. So when you see some of the scenes unfolding in Canada now, like what goes through your mind? I mean, that's where you grew up, and Canada, I see things all the time on social media.
I found Canada to be a very intolerant society.
Even back then?
Oh, yeah. Especially cities like Ottawa. Not only bigotry towards Jewish people, but towards all kinds of different ethnicities. And ironically enough, Jonathan, also towards indigenous natives whom they try and celebrate now after decimating them in the past century. So, yes, I never felt at home in Ottawa. I went to a non-Jewish high school, which was a great high school academically, but lots of anti-Semitism, lots of hatred, lots of abuse. And I came to Israel partly to flee this. I mean, imagine my next door neighbors, whom I babysat, whom I grew up with, saying to me when I was 18, "You're such nice neighbors, why did you kill Jesus?" I have dozens of examples. So I always thought that Canada, I wouldn't say it's an anti-Semitic country, but there's a lot of bigotry there. And these same people who abused me growing up turned into anti-Semitic parents, and they had anti-Semitic children who had anti-Semitic children. And these grandchildren now are adults, and I was always worried that this would simmer again. And it has. And unfortunately, my prophecy came true.
Yeah, we should. I mean, I've had a lot of friends too that I grew up with that now post things that just shock me and disgust me. And I've even had friends who at my house for Seder's who post something and wow, I can't believe that this is it. This is what they've come to.
Much better to live here in Israel, where at least either you know who your enemies are or you think you know.
Right. Well, reflecting on your childhood, were there any early experiences or influences that sparked an interest? Like you've had such a varied career in a lot of things, so that sparked maybe something in science or writing back then?
I've always written, and I always liked science. They had grade 13 in Ontario when I was a kid. Again, the high school was superb. So I was with these very brainy kids, and we were in this enriched math physics class, and they gave us the best English teacher in the school, English meaning literature. His name was E.W. Benoit. And on the first day of class, and I remember this, and this is like 57 years ago or something, he says, you guys are all math and science majors, and you're going to go on to be scientists, but I'm going to teach you to love literature. Mm-hmm. And he did.
So you grew up there in Canada, so you eventually moved to Israel. So what prompted that move when you did, and how old were you when you moved?
I was almost 18. I went on a one-year program called Habonim Workshop to Kibbutz Urim.
So you went by yourself, no family?
Just by myself with 43 other kids.
Oh, right, yes.
And we spent the year program, and we were supposed to go back to North America, but some of us balked. It was after the Six-Day War, and it was a very, very exciting place to be. And, heck, if I'm going to go back to Toronto and study chemical engineering at U of T, when I can be here in Jerusalem. So I stayed. It wasn't something I planned. I planned to go for a year and come back and be a counselor, and then decide at some later stage. But I was just having too much fun here. I felt so at home for the first time in my life being Jewish that I've never really lost my love for being here.
That's exactly how I feel when I'm in Israel. I couldn't, I lived there as a kid for a little bit, and when I went back as an adult, I had such a different feeling, much more appreciative than I did as a kid. A kid, you just take things for granted, but as an adult, I really felt the connection much more. So what did your family say when you said, I'm not coming back, I want to stay here?
First, I want to tell you what the exciting thing is. I've been here 56 years, except for sabbaticals and visits. And, sometimes you're driving down the street and you see signs in Hebrew, and you have this wake-up call that this, ancient 3,000-year-old language has been revived. And I know this was man-made by Eliezer Ben Yehuda and his friends, who revived the 2,000-year-old language. Sorry, but it's never been done before, and this is incredible that we live in the land of the Bible, speaking more or less the same language that our forefathers spoke. So what happened was that my parents were also in Habonim, and my dad had planned to come to Israel. So they were worried when I came. It wasn't an easy time. It was never an easy time here. And then after several years, my sister came, one sister and brother stayed in Toronto. And my parents eventually ended up making Aliyah, learning Hebrew on top of their Yiddish. And they spent, for 30 years, they were going back and forth between Tel Aviv and Toronto.
So you were the trailblazer and everyone followed?
In a sense, yes.
Okay, so I want to ask about, because you were a scientist too, which is one of the just more remarkable things I said in your career. So you were a scientist in microbiology. So I've looked that up a little bit. So could you just explain what that is and what you did?
So microbiology is the study of things that you can't see. Okay. So one of the branches of microbiology is bacteriology, which is the study of bacteria, which are a whole different world from the other creatures on the planet, which are tiny, tiny, tiny microscopic beings that started life off 3.5 billion years ago or so, and intriguing little things. I just fell in love with bacteria, and after my PhD, I got a job at the dental school of Tel Aviv University, starting out a lab in microbiology, which is also very exciting. I mean, imagine in Cameroon, nobody's going to give you a tenure track position to start a lab in the university where no lab existed. And they said, here's your mandate, create a lab, study something. And I didn't know what to study because lots of people study dental caries, lots of people study gum disease. And then I just chanced on bad breath. And I said, oh my goodness, this is something that's, very interesting and people suffer from it. And there's not very many scientists who want to do it. So I'll do it. So I made a career of studying bad breath.
Well, that's one of the things that came up when doing research. And you said that he's renowned for his research on halitosis. So first of all, I have to ask this: was there anyone in particular that you don't want to mention their name that sparked this?
No. We accidentally were developing a mouthwash. Dr. Erwin Weiss and myself.
I read that. That's amazing.
And Tefa asked us if it worked on bad breath, and we had no idea whether it did or not. Erwin was not. He's a dentist. He wasn't enamored with studying bad breath, but I was. So this really hooked me. I remember coming home and telling my wife, "I have found my what I'm going to spend my career doing." I said, "It's a stinky business, but it's going to be a treasure chest."
So that's your most significant contribution to this? Is that mouthwash? Is that
not only the mouthwash, but also we studied a lot of things about bad breath and where it comes from and how people relate to it and why people have trouble smelling their own breath. And before that, I was an expert in adhesion of bacteria to surfaces. So I had a very lucky career. I worked on stuff that people cared about, and I was very proud of that. But when I was about 50, the other things in my life started to like itchy scratchy. You know this, Jonathan, because you've done many things. The music and the writing started to I'm
going to I'm definitely going to ask about that. I just want to finish this one, so because it said you did a lot of things with science, and that you're also an inventor. So I want to know what other products that technologies have you developed there, because this is all fascinating to me.
So in addition to the two-phase mouthwash that became very popular in the UK and Israel, and was produced for a while in the States, but didn't catch on there. We also developed some tools for microbiology, something called the Quad Loop, again with Erwin Weiss, and the Diaslide for examining bacteria in urine specimens. And we developed all kinds of things, but most of them exploded or didn't work. And only one, it's like writing. Only 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 inventions ever takes off, and the rest implode, explode, cannot be manufactured, are carcinogenic, and we had several of each of those.
But it's important to the research on the way for both things, for writing and in science.
Well, the research fed the inventions, and the inventions fed the research. And the money that we got for the mouthwash in England, it essentially covered my basic research for 25 years.
Wow.
So I didn't have to write grant proposals. I had this money coming in from the royalties that accrued to the university.
So, like I said, you've done so many things, and you're also a musician who's produced jazz CDs and you perform regularly, I read. So first of all, who were some of your favorite musicians growing up?
Oh, so that's complicated. That's very complicated. That's a great question. That's an oy vey question. So growing up, I liked Perry Como. Some of the crooners from the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. I love that. And then, of course, in the 60s, the Beatles. And, a lot of rock music. And then in the 70s, I gravitated to jazz, but old school jazz, what we call the Great American Songbook, the vocal jazz of Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday, and also a European jazz, and but basically I'm a sucker for the romantic jazz melodies of the 1940s and 30s. Many of these songs being written by Jewish songwriters.
You still go out playing regularly now, right? Is that true?
No, I don't play regularly anymore. Since Corona and then the war, something bottomed out for me in music, and I play the piano at home a little bit, and once in a while I have some kind of private function. But basically, I've stopped. So also, Jonathan, like people say, I've done so many things, but you can only really concentrate on one or two things at one time. So I'm an alte Kacker, as the Jews say, and I'm an old Jew. Kacker is not a nice word, I don't know how much time left I have, and I want to spend this with the children's literature.
Well, so I'm curious because music and writing are both creative outlets. So does one help the other? Does one, help influence the other a little bit?
I believe that everything helps everything.
Okay.
I believe that creativity is, very similar no matter what the genre or the vertical is. Use the same skills in science and in literature and in music. And I also think that when you have several apparently disparate interests, they somehow come together, what I call thinking between the boxes. So, I've written jazz songs about bad breath, and I've played music to microbes, and I've written children's books about bickering bacteria, and so everything connects with everything.
I have to have music on when I'm writing. Oh, and that always, it's just to help influence what I'm writing.
Do you?
Yes, always.
That's interesting because I cannot listen to music when I'm writing unless it's music that I'm not listening to.
Okay. No, I have to have it on the background. And
okay, so I agree with you. When I need to concentrate, I have to play, what's it called? The soundtrack of West Side Story.
Okay.
And as weird as that sounds, I just put that on and I listen to it for about half a second and then I ignore it and I write.
Well, I find it helps. A lot of times I put on music that's kind of the mood or whatever that I'm writing. Depends on what. Like I'll put on a certain type of music depending what I'm writing that to help, just spark that creativity, I guess, or put me in that mood, that mindset. So
but for me, if I put something on I really like too much, I end up listening to that instead of writing.
Well, all right. So tell me about Our Books, which you launched in, you founded in 2013. So I read that it has over 120,000 ebooks on it. So tell me about the platform itself and what made you start that?
Well, what made me start it is frustration. I've been writing these stories. I wasn't breaking in. You've been everything, an author, an agent. You know how difficult it is to break in. My problem was very prosaic. I wasn't writing well enough, but I didn't recognize that at the time. That's another story. We can talk about it. So I went to the meeting in Bologna about 17 years ago, thinking that I knew everything about writing and so on, and how difficult it is for writers to break in. And I was accosted by illustrators. Oh, you write stories. We'd love to illustrate your story. They said, yeah, but you don't understand. I'm not published. I just write. Doesn't matter. We need to break in. We need to give us a story. We'll illustrate it. And I came back to Israel and I said, oh my goodness, illustrators are just as frustrated as we writers are. Yeah. And unless they have stories, they can't express themselves. And only 1 in 100 or 1,000 illustrators breaks in. So I think that Our Books was born of my desire to share my own stories. And if you write picture books, you need illustrators. So I reached out to 8 or 10 local illustrators, and they volunteered to create illustrations for my stories. And I connected with Ran Sterny, this brilliant internet developer. And I said, Ran, I have this dream. A platform where I can write a page of text and it becomes a page in a book. And an illustrator can upload an illustration, becomes the opposite page. And together we create these page flipping picture books. And he said, oh, I can do that. I said, what? You can do that? He says, yeah. So that's how our books was born.
So has the platform evolved, like, since it first came out? Has it changed? How has it changed?
Well, it turned out that it was difficult. This dream was not tenable, even though I have lots of stories on our books that are illustrated by wonderful illustrators, and you can still find them for free. But for the most part, people wanted to write their own stories, add photographs, embed videos from YouTube and Vimeo and where have you. And it turned out that this was a very good platform for actually creating all kinds of literature, not just picture books. So it evolved, a lot of teaching materials. We now have over 300,000 books, Jonathan.
Oh, wow. Wow, okay.
In almost 30 languages. And because they flip in either direction, we have in Hebrew and in Arabic. And I translated my stories into 20 languages, and they're all there. It's evolving all the time, and now we're coming up with a new editor soon. But it was free for 13 years mostly, and now we're going to have to charge something like $5 a month because I've been, it's been quite a drain on my bank account. Right. So I was happily losing money, and now I say, you know what? If you want to use the platform, please pay a little bit of money to help us maintain it. And Ron has been doing this wonderfully for 13 years. So we're going to have a new editor, new platform, but it is going to cost a few dollars a month to join.
Seems well worth it now. So I want to talk about the Children's Literature Channel on the New Books Network. So you've interviewed like hundreds of people, authors on there, children's book authors, me included. So how did you first start to do that? That you wanted to do that, and how did it begin?
It began at a college called IDC in Herzliya, which is now Reichman University near Tel Aviv. I always wanted to have a radio show where I interviewed interesting people like you. For a year or so, I had a college radio program with music, and there was a piano in the ulpan, how do you say in English, in the studio. And I interviewed all kinds of wonderful, wacky, weird people. It was a Michigan show. You had to sing a song, you had to sing a Beatles song, you had to tell the audience about a personal story that you had never divulged to anybody in the world. And it was a lot of fun. And then I stopped for about 10 years, and then Corona started. And I said, well, why not do this now over Zoom, online? I don't need a radio station anymore. So I started doing it again, and it was called You've Got Mel. And people, the old folks understand the joke here. The young people say, what is that? So it's called You've Got Mel. And I did this during the Corona. But what I found, Jonathan, is over time, I'm interviewing less musicians, less scientists, less ice cream manufacturers, and more authors, illustrators, etc.
Right.
And then my friend Richard Lucas introduced me to the New Books Network and Dr. Marshall Poe. And we made I said, you don't have a children's literature channel. Can I found it? He says, you just found it. So I found it. I found it, and I found it, and I found it. So what I did is at the beginning, I had like about 50 interviews that I had done already during Corona. So I dumped the audio into the new channel. But since then, I've done about 150 more interviews. So we now, I don't know where your sources come from, but I passed the 200 mark.
Well, that's what I said, at least a couple hundred, right? I saw that, yes.
So I still do it. I love doing it. I learned so much. I just interviewed Lila Sales, who's the new head of Carbon, the chief editor. I interviewed you and so many other wonderful authors, illustrators, publishers, editors, librarians, you name it.
So without names, I'm just curious, like, have you ever had interviews? Because you've interviewed so many people, I've done the same, where you knew right away, this isn't going well. And what do you do when that happens?
Oy vey. There is something where you say to yourself, you have to make this happen as best you can.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't know which of the interviews that I love more and I love less. But if an interview ends after 22 minutes, you can guess that perhaps it wasn't going so well. My agent, Liza Fleissig and Ginger Harris, I interviewed Liza and we couldn't stop talking. We went on for over an hour. The show was 40 minutes long. So I had this feeling of true kinship. Yeah, I mean, it's been wonderful. I learned so much, and I can't tell you how important this is to me. And I found my agent by interviewing her. So I mean, doesn't get better than that. Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to your writing, because to me, like, you weren't doing enough things. You decided to take on children's books as well. So what is it about children's books that make you decide that I want to do this?
Well, I always wanted to do this. I've been writing children's stories since my early 20s, John. Mm-hmm. And my first book, I just happened to have brought my piano. My first book, I started writing this 50 years ago.
Oh.
Okay. And I even have I don't know if you can see this, but I have the dumb artwork here that I did when I was 22. So this was my first book. It was eventually published by Tel Aviv University. I've just reprinted it now after 30 years. And I've actually been writing my whole adult life. The problem is this, okay? If you want to be a scientist, I don't know whether you ever wanted to be a scientist. I know that you were involved in the market and Wall Street, and you've been many things. But if you want to be a scientist, you go to university, you do, your first degree, your second degree, your third degree, and then sometimes you do a postdoc, and then you get a position at a university or a company, right? That's to be a scientist. So you know that there's a trajectory of becoming a scientist. Mm-hmm. However,
I do love science. Yes, I love studying about science stuff. But yes,
yeah. But I mean, if you want to become a scientist, there's a road. Follow the yellow brick road, and there's a road. However, to become a children's writer is very, very confusing, because when I was in my early 20s, I'd say, okay, I have a pencil and I have a piece of paper, and I sit down and write myself a children's book. And and then you write, and you can't understand why the earth doesn't beat a path to your door and say, Mel, wow, this is the best thing we've seen in 20 years. We got to publish it. No, we want to publish it. I want to be your agent. No, I want to be. So I had all of these manuscripts that I wouldn't say that they were bad, but to break in to children's writing, it's not enough to be good, and it's not enough to be excellent. You have to be really, really, really good, because you're competing with 1,000 other writers. I mean, I know some of them think it's just a pencil and paper thing, but you're competing with a lot of very serious people who are taking lessons. So until the age of, I'm 74 now, so until my early 60s, I thought that I was really writing well, and that the world was against me, all those anti-Semites, and I didn't have cousins in the right spots, and I was blaming, And then I went to SCBWI in New York. This was about 10 years ago. And I had an oy vey moment. I realized that there were 1,000 other writers there, and they all wrote better than me. I came back and I said to my wife, this is crazy. I mean, I have, if I want to be a children's book writer, I have to do a lot of catching up. So, Jonathan, in the past 10 years, I've been doing a lot of catching up. congresses and conferences and mentors and editors. And I worked with Mike Malbrough for several years. And the past 5 years, I've worked with Harold Underdown. And I continue to work with Harold. I think that this is a lifelong, it's like studying Talmud on Shabbos. There's so much to learn and to improve. And so this was a catch-up game. And during this catch-up game, I managed to be rejected about 300 times and to be turned down by the whole world, including yourself. And but I'm a stubborn Jew,
So tell me, yeah, well, look, I mean, it is perseverance, and I always say this to people too, and it's stupid and it's cliche, but it's the ones who make it, hopefully, are the ones who don't give up, because it's so easy to get discouraged. And if you have a thin skin, you are never going anywhere in publishing.
I couldn't agree more. But there is a thing, you get rejected and then you're dejected. So you get rejected and dejected for a day or two. And then you say, oh, that's it. I can't do it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. And then you say, okay, but what am I going to do if I don't do that? This is what I want to do, right? And maybe the next one, you're also kind of addicted to it, aren't you? Like it's a little bit like a lottery when you're doing the heavy lifting. But you say, maybe this agent, maybe that agent. Oh, I have an idea, on a fish that wants to become a rabbi. I'll write that. Maybe somebody will want it. I didn't write a manuscript like that, but I did write one on a rabbit who's running away from a fox and his teeth falls out and he becomes a rabbi. This is like a trope on a famous joke, but he does become a rabbi. That's not a published one, but so I kept writing and I kept trying to improve, and then after you've written and improved and written and improved, you have to get lucky.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. It's everything's subjective, and it's the right person at the right time. Look, I on my latest thing, I got rejections. The ones that are the most frustrating to me, the ones that, oh, we love it, but we're not taking it. And there's no negative feedback, but it just said, oh, this type of book won't sell. And so it's like, that's the frustrating. You want to pull your hair out.
Jonathan, you did this to me, and I still love you.
Yes, I know. It's all the thing. So it is frustrating. So
I have that manuscript I sent you about the kid who wanted to play Major League Baseball. Yeah, and you wrote me this very nice letter. You say, well, it's really nice, and I'm thinking about it and I'm wondering about it. In the end, you didn't take it. But
yeah, it's all subjective. It's all what strikes the right person.
But the thing is, right? I mean, if you're an agent, and you were an agent, you have to pick the 1 in 1,000 that's going to work for you.
Yeah, it is. It's very, like I said, it is subjective and it's frustrating, but you have to persevere with it. So tell me about the one that did get through now. Tell me about Emily Saw a Door. What's the book about, and what said that I have to write this book?
Okay, so Emily Saw a Door is it's a Jewish story, but there's nothing ostensibly Jewish in it, which is kind of it's ironic in a sense, right? That PJ Library in the States probably would not take it because it's not Jewish enough, but PJ Library in Israel did take it and distributed 50,000 books to kids here in second grade. So it's done really well in Israel. It started out as a book published here by Talmai, which is a boutique publisher of children's books, I think the best in Israel. And it started...
Very familiar with. Who's your editor there?
Yotam Schwimmer.
Okay.
And the publisher is Meira Firon. Right. And it came out in Israel. I mean, there's a whole story of how that happened. Nothing happens,
I'm going to have to hear that. I love Meira, by the way. She's very nice.
Okay, no Meira. So she's wonderful. And we're going to the States next week for the launch of Emily in New York.
Oh, fantastic.
So what happened was I had a legal thing with Talmai because there was a book on our books that had won an award and they wanted to publish it. So we solved this. This was really a no-brainer. And I said to Yotam, by the way, I write children's books. Can we have coffee? So it took a few months, and I'm sitting with Yotam, and I say, I write children's books. Can I give you something to read? He says, Mel, I get 1,500 manuscripts a year, and I publish only a small handful, and they're either repeat authors or people who are very famous. And I said, that's okay. I know my chances are less than 1 in 100. But my friend Jeff Pulver taught me that if you don't try, then the answer is no.
Of course. Yeah.
So would you please agree that I know the chance is less than 100, and you will not hurt my feelings if you reject me? He's such a nice guy. He says, yeah, okay, send me 5 of your favorite manuscripts. And I said, you mean 5 that Harold picked? He said, no, you pick 5 that you love. Mm-hmm. And one of those was Emily Saw a Door. He got back to me 2 months later, and I was sure it was a rejection. And I was just ready to move on to the next email. And I said, scroll back a second, scroll back. And I read it, and they had compared me to some really wonderful writers. I'm embarrassed to say whom. And yes, we would love to publish. I'm like, what? So here I am at the age of 70, jumping around the room like a 4-year-old.
That's great. Okay.
And so the book came out, and they chose the most wonderful illustrator ever, Orit Magia, and she understood this book to the depth, to the core. Emily is a girl who goes from door to door, asking whether she can come in. And each door has a different mice, a different story. Mm-hmm. This door, for example, has endless stairs. This door, here, the green door, would be happy to have her because the animals, it's a jungle door, and the animals haven't had their lunch yet. And so on and so forth. At the end of the story, she ends up frustrated, creating her own door and her own world, and walking in. And Orit did such a marvelous job. And one of the things is that illustrators sometimes see things in the story that the author doesn't see. Mm-hmm. And she said that after Emily creates her door and walks in, there has to be a silent double spread of her creating her world within this new realm. And this is the most gorgeous double spread in the book. And it's not scripted. It's not an art note. I had no idea that this would happen. It's the page I love the most. So what I learned is that when you're able to lose the book to the illustrator, there's a chance that something miraculous will happen. So as I told you then, Pajama Library in Israel made 50,000 soft copies, which were just given away. And Liza, who I had that wonderful interview with, she agreed to look at the PDF of the story in English with the illustrations. And she told me afterwards that she was just being nice to me. Sometimes I gave her this wonderful, I hosted her on the show, we had a wonderful interview. So, I'll do this Mel a favor, and I'll look at the PDF. But she loved it. And then she asked who owns it. And I said, well, Meira owns it. So she spoke to Meira, who was fine with showing it to people and so on. And then about a month later, Liza phoned me, and she said, are you standing up? I said, yeah. She said, well, sit down. I think I just sold your story to Penguin Random. I said, what? Yeah, Ginger and I sold your story to Penguin Random House. I said, what? So that's the thing. So because, here's the book, right? The book in English is spectacular. It's huge, It's like McDonald's in the States. Everything is supersized. The book is huge, and it's gorgeous because it's huge. And because it's in English, it goes in this other direction. But the same illustrations by Orit Magia, the same brilliant illustrations. And the book is just gorgeous. But I'm still going to have to go to New York on Friday because, I'll have to see with my own eyes. It's actually...
So you're going with Meira?
Yeah, with Meira and with Orit and with Yotam, we'll all be in New York.
I met Yotam as well. Yes, it's very nice also. Yes.
So we're all going to the book launch at the corner bookstore on the 24th at 4 p.m. Everybody's invited.
Oh, that's right. I wish I was in New York. But no.
You would be more than welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I consider myself the luckiest person in the world. What else can I say?
Oh, that's fantastic. So I was just curious because the book was published in Hebrew first, right?
Yeah, but here's a secret. It was written in English.
Okay, so I was wondering.
Well, no, one of the things I learned after SCBWI in New York is not to write any more stories in Hebrew because my Hebrew is pretty good, but it's not my mama loshen, not my native tongue, which is English. So Emily was actually written in English, translated into Hebrew for the original Hebrew publication, and then because the Hebrew, Yotam likes to truncate and shorten, and he wanted it 310 words. So I shortened it. It turns out that when you shorten, it actually improves. But then it wasn't the original story in English. So to make the PDF in English, I had to go back to the English and the Hebrew. No, and the Hebrew.
Right.
And then work it back so the English also fit the pictures in the Hebrew story.
So that's what I was going to ask. If you changed it from Hebrew, was there any changes? But you got to go back to your original way that you wrote it for the English version.
Okay, so there was a change. For 2 days, Emily was left-handed.
Okay, yes.
Hold on. I got very excited about this because I'm left-handed. You won't find picture books in which the hero is left-handed.
My youngest daughter will be very happy. She's a lefty.
But I mean, when they discovered it, and I wrote to her. I said the editor in the States is the wonderful Annie Kelly of Random House Studio. She's marvelous, and I said, "Oh, Annie, thank you. Thank you. Emily's left-handed now." But it turned out that she wasn't left-handed on all the pages. Flip.
All right. So with all the things that you have going on, so what are you working on next?
Okay, so it's been announced. I sold another story.
Fantastic!
Thank you to Sarah Rocket at the Tilbury, and which is the sister of Sleeping Bear, and it's a story about the day that the bacteria are discovered, back in 1676, and they're bickering because each. The bacteria in the pickle jar want to be the first to be discovered, and the bacteria in the teeth want to be the first to be discovered, and they have this exchange about which bacteria are most important and deserve to be the ones that are first discovered.
Fantastic. I look forward to that one too. And how can people follow you on social media?
I don't know. How can people follow me? If you write Mel Rosenberg, I suppose you'll find me. At Mel Rosenberg, one word, will bring you to, I don't know, Instagram or something. I'm better on Facebook. I have a lot of.
So you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter also?
Yeah. My website is my website is now authormel.com. And for better or for worse, people can find me. There's another thing I was thinking about today, Jonathan. If your name is George Smith, it can be hard to find you on the internet. But when your name is Mel Rosenberg, it's not that hard to find you.
I'll put up the links anyway. Mel, thank you for coming on today. Always fun talking to you. So and I look forward to the book as well.
Okay, I want before we leave, I just want to say thank you, and you're such a mensch. It's always wonderful to see you, and happy for any interaction.
Appreciate it. Same likewise.
And if I ever become an agent, I'll be delighted to look at some of your stuff.
I don't recommend it, but let me sign this off. Right. Again, this has been The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and again, a very special thanks to Mel Rosenberg. The book is Emily Finds a Door, or what was
Emily Saw a Door.
Oh, a door. That's it. Emily Saw a Door. Make sure you get a copy, and please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to The Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.